Hello everyone, I'm teacher Richard from London Centre. Today's class is on Ielts Writing Task 1 and it's about understanding the question. What are we supposed to answer when we see the question? Okay, we can see on this slide a typical Ielts Writing Task 1 question. We're looking at a line graph and there's two parts to the question. Whether it's a bar chart, a line graph, a map or a diagram. We have the first part, part 1, which will describe the visual information. In this case, it describes a bar chart. And number 2, this part of the question is always the same. It's to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and making comparisons where relevant. So, what do we have to do to answer this question? Okay, now we can see here there's two parts have to answer. Part 1, this part will change depending on if it's a graph, a bar chart, a map. And we can see here, number 1 states, the chart below shows the changes that took place in 3 different areas of crime in Newport city centre from 2003 to 2012. Part 2 always remains the same. This is a very important part of the question, and if we're going to have a good score for our Ielts Writing Task 1, we need to understand how to answer this part of the question. And as I said before, question part 2 states, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So there's 2 parts we have to answer. On the next slide, we'll see how we answer the first part. So for the first part of an Ielts Writing Task 1 question, we have to rewrite the description. We need to paraphrase the description. What I mean by paraphrasing is we need to rewrite it using the same meaning. We need to change the vocabulary or put the words in a different order. Okay, so let's look at the example that I've done here. The actual question says, the chart below shows the changes that took place in 3 different areas of crime in Newport city centre from 2003 to 2012. Now, to achieve a good score, I need to paraphrase, I need to rewrite this part of the task with the same meaning. So what I've done is I've changed some vocabulary and changed the sentence a little. So for example, in my answer, it says the line graph. So I've changed the chart to the line graph because it actually is a line graph. I've then replaced shows with illustrates. It's a synonym, it's the same meaning, so I can actually put it into my answer. I've changed the context of my sentence a little bit because I don't want to repeat the question, so I've put the line graph below illustrates how rates of crime, and then I've put in varied. Okay, I've replaced changes in the question and I've used varied. It's a synonym, it's a similar meaning word, it gives us the same meaning. And then, whereas the question says Newport city centre, I've changed it to in the city centre of Newport. And then I've added, at the end of the sentence, the question says from 2003 to 2012. I've changed it but kept the same meaning to say between 2003 and 2012. So this is the first part of your writing task. Paragraph 1 is to paraphrase the question. Okay, so this is part 2 of the question. Part 2 is separated into 3 main parts. This question never changes. It's always the same. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. There are 3 main parts to this question. Part 1 or part A in red is to summarize the information. So we need to put in like an overview paragraph or a summary paragraph, okay? Task is to summarize the information or what's the trend? You know, what's the big picture over the graph? To answer that, our response should be to write an overview paragraph, okay? So we're not going to put too many details in there. We're not going to put figures or percentages. We're just going to have a simple overview paragraph of what's happening across the line graph, okay? I've wrote this and I'm going to read it out. According to the graph, burglaries decreased substantially. However, incidents of car theft and robberies remain steady over the same period. Okay, so there's no figures, there's not too many details, it's an overview. Okay, the overview is that burglaries have gone down and car theft and robberies have kind of remained the same over the period of the line graph. All right, let's go to the next slide. Putting those two together, putting the first paragraph and the second paragraph together, we've got approximately 40 words there. We have to write a minimum of 150, and so maybe the third and fourth paragraphs, they're going to have a lot of details in, which will enable us to get over this 150 word minimum. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So part B is to select and report the main features. What I've done here, I've highlighted, I've pointed out some main features on this line graph. Okay, so with a graph, we normally have a starting point and we kind of follow it through until the end point. And along the way, we have main features. So for example, I've got the starting points as main features. I've got any high points, such as a peak, any low points, and some endpoints. These are the main features. When we come to Ielts Writing Task 1, we don't want to write about every feature. We want to write about the most important parts of the graph or the bar chart, and I've highlighted them on this slide. Okay, let's look how we answer this question on the next slide. We have our main features kind of highlighted, and what we want to do is we want to write about them. And what I've done here is that we have three different categories of crime. We have burglary, car theft, and robberies, or theft from a person. So what I've done is I've separated them into three small paragraphs, starting with burglary at the top, and then car theft, and then finally robberies. Okay, let's go to the next slide to see how it all fits together, and including the last part C of the question, making comparisons where relevant. Okay, so this includes paragraph 1, 2. So we have the introduction where we've paraphrased the question. We've got paragraph 2, which is the overview. And now we have the three detailed paragraphs. And I've highlighted the comparisons in a purple color because we need to make comparisons because the question asks for that information. In the first paragraph, in 2003, burglary had and I put the highest crime rate. I'm comparing burglary against the other two categories. That's my comparison. In the second paragraph, I'm saying that car theft followed a similar pattern to burglary. That is my comparison. In the final paragraph, stating that the lowest number of offences occurred in robberies. So I don't want to put this too often in the essay. I need to make sure I put some comparisons in there, obviously where relevant. I need to write an introductory paragraph where I paraphrase the question. I need to put in an overview paragraph. In the other paragraphs, I've written about the details and I've made comparisons. So to summarize, this is how we would answer an Ielts Writing Task 1 question. Okay, so thank you very much. My name's Teacher Richard from London Centre. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next Ielts video. Thank you.